Chest up, shoulders back. This is Revival Fitness. And I am going to give you a warning right off the bat here. A lot of you are not going to like what you see in this video because it is going to go contrary to the beliefs that you have. But this is the diet that I am using prepping for my coming show in the summer of 2024. I have gotten here through a lot of trial and error, and two big things have led me to this point. One, my skin problems. What that really boils down to is autoimmune problems. If you guys watch some of my old bulking videos especially, I didn't realize this back then because I had never really changed my diet significantly, but I look back on some of these old videos, man, my face is so red, I legitimately look like a tomato. And some people think that is sunburn. I mean, that can definitely play a role, but that really is rosacea. Then in the past number of years too, I started getting psoriasis spots all over my body, the deeper into a bulk that I went, and thankfully for me, it was pretty mild. It could have gotten much worse. I've seen very bad examples. I have tried many creams. I've seen a dermatologist, and you get the typical runaround like, well, we're not entirely sure. It could be this, it could be that. Take this. And it might help a little bit, but I do not want to rely on medications and pills and creams and all this other stuff for my entire life just to have normal looking skin. And I'm sure some of you have similar problems as well. And once you start looking up certain diet remedies that can fix this, you're going to notice a number of trends. There's a lot of potential things here. If you are somebody that is struggling with a lot of skin problems, I would say an elimination diet is pretty much going to have to happen for you, unless you want to just keep relying on the RX. But I did carnivore a number of months ago, and just in over the span of a month, all the red spots on my body were gone. After I ended my last bulk, toward the end of November, I had those red spots, not as bad as before given some changes I made, but they were definitely coming back with a vengeance. I have since gone, not totally carnivore, but mostly, and surprise surprise, they are going away once again. So I know for myself that this works without a question. And even going into my next bulk, guys, I think I am going to probably favor a more low-carb approach to see if that can really help my skin, because I would really enjoy that. So that's the first aspect, and the second one is my experience on my last prep. And as you guys have heard me talk about, I was having a lot of issues with hunger and satiety, especially deeper into the diet. And I think a big thing with me that I learned, whenever I eat carbs, primarily carbs that are anything besides oatmeal, it really seems like, because oatmeal is just, in my opinion, not very tasty, and it's pretty slow digesting. But if I'm gonna have things like potatoes and pasta, bread is a big one there too, those seem to generally increase my appetite. I would say pasta is the biggest culprit, maybe because I grew up eating a lot of it. It's sort of like a comfort food for me. Some of the stuff is going to tie into that mentally as well. If you had foods you ate growing up, or you ate certain things together a lot, it may kind of trigger your appetite. This is kind of pseudoscientific, I know, but I think it's valid in a lot of ways. So if I would have even just a little bit of pasta on my last cut, if I was scheduled just to have, say, 1 cup of pasta because it fits in the macros, I would have 1 cup, and then 30 minutes later I was still hungry, just looking around like a crackhead searching for more food. Some people don't have that problem. They can have even very high carb diets in relation to their macros and still cut pretty easily. I'm just not one of those people. A lot of people fit that same criteria too, though. That's why you'll hear a lot about low-carb diets. People rave about them for fat loss. One of the biggest things is because they're just very satiating. And if you're going to follow a more carnivore-esque style, eating a lot of animal products, so meat and fat concurrently, they're very nutrient-dense at the same time. And the two other big things that tend to set me off, you could call them trigger foods, were peanut butter, which if you're cutting in general, that can be a danger zone thing to even have in the house. A lot of people talk about eating the entire jar of peanut butter. Not many people, I think, can just do 1 spoonful of that. And even milk. And I do like my milk. I like a lot of milk-related products, dairy in general, especially the raw milk, which I think I will be having again on the bulk in smaller quantities for the sake of my skin. I think if I drink a whole lot of it, I was up to a half gallon at one point a day. I don't think my skin likes that, but I can handle a few cups a day, from what I can tell. But something with me and milk is that it reminds me of dessert, because I was a big milk and cookies type of kid whenever I was young. So I noticed once again for myself that Even if the milk fits into my macros, if I drink, say, a glass of milk, my taste buds immediately are like, okay, well, where are the cookies at? Where are the sweets? Chocolate! Is there gonna be chocolate milk with this, right? You see what I'm saying? So, you have to figure this out for yourself, guys, but everybody's got certain types of foods that they may set you off to eat more, they don't satiate you very much, all these other things. So keep this in mind, especially if you are looking to get really lean, not just do a general cut. If you're trying to get like 10% or below body fat, let alone do a show and get really peeled, you need to know this about yourself, because if you fall off the wagon in terms of the food, it's just not going to work. So that said, let's jump into the meals that I'm eating every day. And those of you that have been here for a while can probably fill in the blank here. For breakfast, I have 6 eggs. Now, I am not actually eating all of these at the same time like I used to. What you're going to see in the first meal, I split it up into the beginning and the end of the day. And as I was mentioning, this is extremely satiating. I was at a point, even in the deficit here, I couldn't eat the 6 eggs and, as you can see, the ground beef. I do 2 6-ounce patties, so that is 12 ounces total. And even just eating this in the morning, if I was eating all of this at one time like I tried to whenever I started, I couldn't even finish the food. And I was surprised by that, but once again, this type of food, I get this directly from a farm as well. Grass-fed cows, pasture-raised chickens, these animals are eating the diet that they should be eating, not a bunch of corn and soy. These are extremely nutrient-dense products. But I like to keep things pretty simple with my food. I will salt the eggs, maybe throw in a little bit of pepper when they're done. I put salt on the beef. Maybe I'll put on a little bit of steak seasoning or some other type of seasoning if I just happen to like it, but I don't go overboard with anything else. So the final macros on the 6 whole eggs and the 12 ounces of ground beef, I believe the beef is 85/15. It comes out to 96 total grams of protein and 102 total grams of fat, totaling 1,302 calories. And next up is something that I have not had in my diet for a long time, primarily on the bulk because I was going for more fatty meat. But that is good old chicken breast. Probably the most popular protein source in the fitness scene, besides protein powder itself. But chicken takes a long time to prepare, and especially if you're eating a lot of it every day, like I am, you're going to spend a ton of time in the kitchen, and I had never done this before. But I finally decided to give a meal prep delivery service a try, and I have to say, I am very impressed. I didn't realize how many hours every single week I was wasting in the kitchen and in the grocery store until I discovered Nutray. Nutray offers a wide variety of high-quality, protein-packed meals that they deliver to your door every week. This is not your typical big corporation. Nutray was founded by an Italian family who own and operate restaurants in the Northeast United States, meaning every meal is prepared by chefs using the highest quality ingredients. With Nutray, you simply heat up the food and you can enjoy in minutes. Choose between 5 up to 20 meals per week. The more you get, the more you save, and there is no hassle with Nutray. You can skip a week or cancel at any time. I've tried a number of their meals and they are very tasty. I especially like the fact that you can buy in bulk, such as the chicken and beef. I have used both of those regularly over the past number of weeks, and I cannot recommend them highly enough to you guys if you'd like to give them a shot. So use my code MK40 at the link in the pinned comment and top of the description, see if they deliver to your area, and enjoy. But I eat 10 ounces of chicken a day, and what you're witnessing on the screen now is a historic moment. I am using a food scale. Now, I've said in the past, guys, I do not believe for the general person that you need to use a food scale to reach your goals. I think it is just overkill at that point. If you like using one and it's convenient, go for it, but I don't believe that it is necessary at all, and especially for those of you that have struggled in the past with eating disorders and things like that. Food scales and measuring every single thing tend to set those off, so keep that in mind too. And I have this with, right now I'm doing a 1/4 cup of rice. That's right, just a 1/4 cup. I throw that into the rice maker. I've been advised before to wash off the rice first, so I'm doing that now. Pro tip for you guys though, if you would like to get more taste for your rice, instead of making it with water, I like to make it with chicken broth. And this chicken broth is essentially 0 calorie. I mean, the entire box here has, what, I think 40 or 50 total calories per 1 cup serving, and you're not going to be using an entire cup. Given that this is my only carb meal for the day, I like to have this before I go work out. And I might be switching into protein oatmeal before the workout. I will do usually a quarter cup of oats as well, and I will add in some of my grass-fed Levels Whey chocolate protein. That is my favorite. You guys can also use code GOM20 at levelsprotein.com to get 20% off of your entire order. But my carb sources at this point are very low in terms of quantity, and they're very boring. But that is what is best for me in terms of cutting, and even so, like I said, this is not bad tasting food. Fresh rice, especially with some chicken broth mixed in, I think is tasty, especially if you have it with some type of meat. And protein oatmeal, as long as you have a good tasting protein powder, which mine definitely is, that is also tasty. It's almost like a modified type of chocolate pudding. People have this idea that every meal that you eat has to be extremely tasty. And even then, if you have an adjusted palate to whole foods, you don't need all these flashy meals to taste good. A lot of people, given the fact that they've been eating garbage for so much of their life, they can't stomach anything unless it is extremely sugary, fried in a bunch of oil, sweeteners added into it. A lot of people, they can't even drink their coffee without it turning into a glorified milkshake. So keep that in mind, especially if you're newer to fitness and you've been following the standard American diet or standard Western diet for a long time. Adjusting your palate might take some time, but it is going to be absolutely essential if you want to really change your body. But the final macros on this meal: 10 ounces of chicken is 72 grams of protein, 9 grams of fat, 370 calories. A quarter cup of rice is 36 grams of carbs, which comes out to 144 calories. And if I switch the rice out with the protein oatmeal, that is going to be 205 calories, 75 for the quarter cup of oats, 130 for the scoop of Levels Whey. So that is about 60 to 70 calories extra, which is really not a big deal. I am getting extra protein with the second option. If I want to lose those 60 to 70 calories, I can simply take an egg out of my breakfast in the morning, have a little bit less chicken or beef. Pretty easy to do. And the third meal of the day, keep in mind it's not my last because I split my breakfast in two. That is the final meal as well as the first. I have a half pound of ground beef, and I put some mustard on top. Hooray! So there's not much else to say about this meal. Mustard, though, if you're not aware, is a great topping that has no calories in it. I think it's very tasty. I remember as a kid, if I was getting like a burger or something, I would always want the ketchup without the mustard. I have totally changed that. Most ketchups that you're going to find now have high fructose corn syrup in them, if not added sugar as well. They're totally junk, and the macros on the half pound of beef comes out to 40 grams of protein, 48 grams of fat, totaling about 592 calories. And here are the final macro tallies for the day. If I am doing the rice instead of the protein oatmeal, that comes out to 208 grams of protein, about 36 grams of carbs, and 159 grams of fat. If I am doing the protein oatmeal instead, which I've been trying out lately, that is 232 grams of protein, only 16 grams of carbs, and still 159 grams of fat. Both of those are going to come out to roughly just under 2,500 calories. So the breakdown percentage-wise is not what you're going to typically see in fitness. In fact, it goes very contrary to what the vast majority of mainstream fitness influencers say to do. The percentages are about 38% protein, 3 to 5% carbs based on the meal, and 59% fat. Some of you might be asking, aren't you worried about all that saturated fat? What about your cholesterol and you're going to get heart disease? No, I'm not worried at all. A lot of you guys, as the vast majority of the fitness industry is, you guys like to cite very faulty research as ironclad proof of the outdated saturated fat is bad claim. I can show you guys research that has the opposite indication all day. I used to be the same way. I thought this was all a bunch of fad dieting and quacks and it was just a bunch of nonsense. Until you actually get past your own biases and look into it, there's actually a lot of benefits and a lot of science and evidence behind this, if you're willing to actually look and give it a chance. And then I think the last thing to talk about here very briefly is the supplements. If you guys don't know, my supplement outlook is pretty simple. I really don't look into these things terribly heavily at all. But if it is something that I can find that I can get in a bulk serving that is pretty cheap, like only a few pennies per serving, I will typically give it a shot. So I've been taking creatine for a number of years now. It really doesn't have huge performance benefits as far as I can tell. What it does do is draw some extra water into the muscles, which is going to make you look more full. If that's all it really does for the cheapness of it, I guess why not? I started taking glutamine a number of months ago because it's supposed to help with gut function. I'm not entirely sure how much that does help. Once again, I think just adjusting your diet in general. You'll probably have to do an elimination period or numerous elimination periods with certain foods, like I said. That's going to be the best way to really tell. But glutamine is purported to have some other benefits too. I got a buy one get one free, so I have 2 of these tubs now. So I guess why not use them, right? And the next thing I just added recently is taurine. This is something that I've heard about recently. It allegedly has some recovery benefits. It can help endurance, stuff like that. I've just started trying it out. I was able to find a big batch of it for relatively cheap. It's another thing that I will probably exhaust the bag I have. If it seems to help a little bit, I'll probably buy it again. If not, I'll probably not take it. Given that we're in the darker months too, I am taking a vitamin D every day. I originally started taking this because I was told it could help with the psoriasis problems I was having. Now, if you live in a place where it is constantly sunny, I don't think you're going to need vitamin D. Even so, it might be worth taking just to see. But if you are someplace where it's always raining, overcast, it gets very cold, vitamin D is probably something at least worth trying. Given the fact that it's very, very inexpensive, it's another thing to where it's like, okay, sure, why not? I got my vitamin D levels tested, I believe it was last winter, and it was below the reference range, so that's what prompted me to buy it. Another one I hear about often is L-carnitine, and I've looked that up, and it seems to be something that a lot of people inject. I don't know if I'm going to be injecting a supplement every single day. Like, I mean, if you're going to be injecting stuff, you might as well do the real thing, right? I've had a number of people tell me that L-carnitine gives them a boost, especially with energy and metabolism. I've never tried it myself up to this point, so I can't really speak on that. But if I have to do it that way, I don't think I'm going to do it. Now, if I can find a powder or pill form of L-carnitine, I think that would be the next thing on the list that I try to see if I notice any metabolic primarily benefits from it. The diet I'm following now, despite the lower amount of food, and I am doing cardio, currently 5 days a week I'm doing 2.5 miles, whether it's on the treadmill or the elliptical, recumbent bike, whatever. I'm doing a fair amount of cardio right now, but I will say my overall energy is definitely very good. I noticed this the last time I was on this low-carb diet during my last prep. Even if I was a little bit more fatigued just during the day from eating less, my mental focus is pretty good too. So that's something you might notice if you adapt to low carb. You may have some ups and downs at the beginning, especially if you change your diet dramatically. That's a pro tip I would say. Don't go from eating the standard diet to, say, exclusively carnivore, exclusively something else overnight. You want to take some time, as annoying as it can be, because when you're eager, you want to just dive right into it. But you want to give your body some time to adjust, let your digestion kind of process itself, let your microbiome adjust as well. Other things like that. Your energy is going to be better if you slowly adapt, as opposed to just do a total 180 in terms of what you're eating. But my energy at this point, I've been on this diet for a number of weeks now. It is good. I've talked about too, I was actually experiencing energy problems on my last bulk from eating so much food. I would wake up and stuff my face with eggs and a massive, massive pancake and maple syrup, maybe a bowl of cereal. I was tired by noon, simply from eating so much, especially things that have a lot of flour in them. You guys might have had that experience after a big breakfast. You have a big pancake or waffles or something like that, and you're tired already, and the day's not even halfway over yet. So I'm also excited to implement these methods into my next bulking phase, but we will deal with that once we get there. Let's finish this cut first. But this has been it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. Share this video with somebody that needs to see it. Be sure to give Nutre a try down below. Meal prep delivery, use code MK40 to save 40% on your first order. You can get in direct contact with me down below for questions about your own eating and training. One-on-one messaging and other benefits are available via Patreon. You can also join our Discord, hundreds of members over there, and use my other links to save on some great products and services. And I will catch you guys next time.